Hello everyone, I welcome you again in our subject module titled as Services Marketing. So this is Dr. Achal and we were dealing about the concept of the relationship marketing in our previous discussion. Further elaborating the concept of the relationship marketing, what are the important strategies and how the concept of the relationship marketing is being different enough with the transaction marketing, that will be dealing in today's discourse. Earlier also we have said that this relationship, the concept of the relationship, it is not new. However, in the field of the services arena, it is very much being imperative enough for the service provider to build up a strong ties and association, and the assurance should be crafted enough in the procedural plans of the service provider, so that the good ties and the good credible relationship can be seen in their professional and then their working procedure. So moving on with the slide. Now this is an application that says it's all being related with an application of the relationship marketing. And here we are saying that the extent of relationship marketing concept, it varies from customer, as some are more disposed towards it than others. Jackson's identification of the three types of customer was based on the time horizon within which a customer makes a commitment to a vendor, and also the actual pattern of relationship follows over time. The three types of customer identified are the lost for good customer, the always, a share customer, the intermediate type. Now this slide is being related with an application part, how the relationship, the concept of the relationship how the concept of the relationship can be used in a real sense, in a pragmatic sense. So this is the slide which is all being related with an application of the relationship strategy, and says that the extent of the relationship marketing concept, it varies from customer, as some are more disposed towards it than others. We are seeing that the phenomena, the philosophy of the relationship marketing is not only from the point of view of the sellers, from the point of view of the business entities of the organization. It is an important association that has to be felt, that has to be developed, that has to be initiated from the customer's point of view also, because this is not two-way relationship, this is a mutual relationship. You as a provider of the services, you as a marketer, you will not be able to get in a good form, you will not be able to develop that particular kind of association, the good ties with your customers or with your consumers, if the consumers and the customers, they are not being inclined enough towards your offering. So, or they are not very much being interested enough towards your brand or towards building up on a good kind of association with you. So as this is a two-way relationship, we are seeing that it is very much pragmatic enough, and really it's very much being imperative enough in today's competitive scenario, that from the marketer's point of view, they are trying to build up that association, but there are certain kind of categories of the customers who are taking this affinity and the association in their own perspective. Some kind of customers who are falling in the category of the having a direct association, they are falling under the category and they are more being disposed enough towards your offering, trying to have a good relationship with you in order to have an effective delivery process. There are certain other categories of the consumers and the customers who are not being inclined enough towards developing that good ties with you, because they may be in a situation in which they are fickle-minded customers. There may be a situation in which they are not frequently using out your offering. There may be a situation in which the customers themselves, they are not very much being loyal enough towards your brand. So there can be any instances, there can be any reason wherein the customers and the consumers, they are not very much being pronounced enough towards the disposition of your offering. So any kind of category. Further, we are seeing that the Jackson's identification of the three types of customers, it was being based on the time horizon within which a customer makes a commitment to a vendor, and also the actual pattern of the relationship follows over time. Jackson, he has said that he has identified that there can be three types of the customers, and these three types of the customers are depending upon the time horizon. He has experienced that depending on the time zone, there can be a customer wherein they are more being committed to a vendor, and their actual pattern of the relationship will be following over a period of time. That is, as we have said, that having out association, developing out that affinity needs to be initiated. It needs to be present on the part of both the parties, that is the customer and the service provider or the manufacturer. Now, he has identified that the customer will be making out a commitment to a vendor, and also if the customer is falling onto the category wherein they are showing an inclination to move in for the development of the ties, definitely their purchase pattern will be frequent, definitely their moves will be in a welcoming mood, definitely they will be showing out a great cooperatism will be shown enough on their part to have an effective delivery process, to have an effective consumption and assimilation of the services. So, this kind of commitment will be shown on the part of the customers to be reflected in their purchase and the consumption pattern with the vendor or with the service provider. And actually this pattern of relationship, this pattern of behavioral pattern, I mean the approach and the behavior of this particular transaction will be helping to develop a good relationship amongst both the party, that is the customer and the supplier, over a period of time. So, he has said, Jackson has said that there can be 3 types of the customers, and he has identified that the very first category is the lost for good customer, the always a share customer, and the intermediate type. Now, moving on with the further elaboration of this types, the very first as the lost for good customer. It says that the lost for good customer makes a series of purchases over time, faces high cost in switching to a new supplier, and views the commitment to a particular supplier as relatively permanent. The buyer adopts this position because switching costs are high. For example, airlines are unlikely to change lightly the type of the aircraft with which they purchase. Even at a more mundane level, an organization will have some reluctance in changing its office automation system because of the cost and the disruption that ensures. So, this is the very first category of the customer wherein we are seeing that the lost for good customer, and here these are the categories of the customers who are moving for the purchase process very frequently, and they are sticking out towards a specific brand, towards a specific product very frequently. Whenever they are in a need for, they are moving towards that specific purchase process. And why they are moving in for, what is the reason of sticking out to a specific brand? Because they are feeling out, they are having that particular notion in their mind that if they are moving in for the alternative sources of action, if they are just trying to explore, if they are moving in for the alternative venues which are there available in the market area, their switching cost will be more. And this is a fact also, wherein we as a customer, if we are just trying to explore the availability of the different suppliers, the availability of the different service providers or the marketers in a good way, we have to devote a large amount of effort. We have to go in for the devotion of large amount of efforts in the form of time, talent and treasure. These efforts are being needed in the form of time. Time is very precious. Talent is also our skill, our dexterity will be needed, our patience, perseverance will be, I mean it will be judged upon towards exploration of the brands. So, time, talent and treasure, all these efforts will be, it will be devoted by us as a customer if we are trying to move in for the different alternative options in this competitive scenario. So, this is a reason wherein the lost for good customer, they are not moving for the next alternative brand, they are not going for that particular, and they are just trying to stick out their purchase decision towards a one set of basket of, I mean towards one specific brand, that is towards whom they are making out their purchase decision on a very frequent basis. So, this is a relatively permanent, and the views, we are saying that they are facing on a high cost in switching out to a new supplier, and views the commitment to a particular supplier as relatively permanent. The buyer adopts this position because the higher switching cost is there. For example, we have taken an example like airline. In the airline industry, they are likely to change out the type of the aircraft with which they are dealing with. Even at a more mundane level of the organization, they will be having some reluctance in changing its office automation system because of the cost and the disruption that it ensures. We are seeing that in the case of we have taken one of the example that in the case of the airlines industry, the aircraft with which they are trying to give an easy commutation, a safe commutation to the passengers, they are not very much being good enough to shift out or to make any kind of replacement with that particular kind of aircraft machinery, because they will be maintaining, they will be overhauling it, they will be taking good care of it, but very frequently they will not be be able enough to get it changed with a newer one. Similarly, we have said that if in a certain organization they are following on a good procedural plans, their way of moving in for the transactional process is very efficient enough, it is very good enough. Even with the deployment of the manpower, they are not very much being inclined enough towards automation. Then if the working and the procedural plans are being carried out in a good and in a diligent way, some kind of organization, they will not be willing enough to move in for the adoption process, to move in for the office automation process, because they are good with the things, they are efficient with the things, they are it's not that they are not in a need to go in for the adaptability process, or they are not in a need of getting themselves abreast with the technological changes. It is not so. But here those business organizations, they are reluctant enough to replace out their own conventional mode of mechanism with the office automation one, because they are thinking of that will involve a huge amount of cost, and more so over, it will also lead towards disruption of the kind of the things that is being seen and witnessed in their own traditional conventional approach of the organization. So this is also a kind of feeling, a kind of perception that is being seen in the functionality of an organization, wherein the organization, they themselves are not very much being willing enough to get in the form of the change. If their activities, if their their functionalities are being carried out in a good kind of way. Moving on to the next one, it is argued that since the buyer faces a high switching cost, it is looking to form a long-term relationship with the seller. Hence, the seller needs to adopt a similar approach and be prepared to make a substantial upfront investment to win new or greater commitments from such customers. It suggests that the relationship marketing is apt for the buyer who might be lost for good. In short, so we are seeing that this slide says that it is argued that since the buyer faces a high switching cost, it is looking to form a long-term relationship with the seller. Hence, the seller needs to adopt a similar approach and be prepared to make a substantial upfront investments to win new or greater commitments from such customer. It suggests that this relationship marketing is apt for the buyer who might be lost for good. In short, the big plus of this type account is that once the customer loyalty can be expected. The downside is that if lost, it is unlikely ever to be gained. Now, this is an important statement in the slide. We are seeing that the buyer, if the buyer is having a notion to get themselves being, if they are just having that notion, like if they are trying to switch over to a next alternative, if they are trying to explore towards a newer brand or an offering which is there available in the market, that will tend to be costly for them in terms of the deviation of the time, talent and treasure. So, high switching cost, the high ordering cost is one of the important reason wherein the customers are not moving in for the other alternatives and the brands. If that relationship is being seen, if that phenomena is being seen, and they are trying to develop a good relationship amongst the suppliers, amongst the service provider, then on the part of the supplier and the organization should also take care of their needs and expectations. They should be at certain point of time, they should be moving in for the other approaches to satiate their, to give them some extra, to give them some premiums. Some upfront investment can be made to win out their loyalties, to give them more assurance, to develop that association to be continued for the years to come. So the greater commitment should be given, should be shown on the part of the organization, and that is being reflected on by the flotation of the premiums or the discounts to these kind of worthy customers. we are saying that this relationship marketing, it is very apt, it is very it is very relevant for the buyer who might be lost for good. In short, the big plus of this type account is that once won, the customer loyalty can be expected. The downside is that if lost, it is unlikely ever to be regained. So the main philosophy, the main crux of this philosophy is that if the loyal customers, they are not, we as a provider, we as an organization, if we are not being able enough to gain them, to reinforce them, to retain them for a longer period of time, their loyalty are not to be reinforced, their loyalty are not to be retained by us because of certain reasons, then they will be lost. These are being termed as an asset for our organization, and they will be lost, their loyalty will be lost, and that cannot be regained in the next discourse. So this particular kind of thing should be shown in the strategies, in the procedural plans of the business organization, the service organization, wherein the service organization should be trying to recognize, identify that who are the customers who are falling in the category of the premium customers, and how to just win out their loyalties to be continued for the years to come by making certain kind of upfront investment, by giving them certain kind of rebates in the premiums to get their loyalty being stuck towards our brand. Now this is the second, that is the always a share customer. At the other end of the customer behavior spectrum lies the always a share customer who purchases regularly, has little loyalty to the purchase particular supplier, and can switch easily from one vendor to another. Both the parties recognize such relationship as short. Now this is the point. This is the slide which says that there are the other categories of the customers, that is, they are falling in the bracket of the always a share customer, and they are in the other spectrum of the continuum of the customers category. We are saying that there lies always a share customer who are purchasing out regularly, has a little loyalty to purchase particular supplier, and can switch easily from one vendor to another. Both parties can recognize such a relationship in short term. Now always a share customer, as the name is self-explanatory to you, that is, here the frequency of the purchase decision is frequent, regularly, but that regularity is being seen in terms of making a shift. The customer may move in for the other alternative brands or the other alternative offerings which are there available in the market, and even though their frequency of the purchase decision is frequent enough, it is regular in nature, but their moves are not very much being certain. Their loyalty are not, the purchase pattern are not very much being sticking enough towards one particular specific brand. So here the little loyalty is being shown towards the purchase decision being shown by the customers. So here we are saying that the customer or the consumer, they can be easily available, they can be easily being able to switch out or to switch over their purchase pattern from one brand to another brand because of certain reasons, because of their fickle minded thing. So both the parties, that is the parties on the hand of the customer's perspective, the parties from the supplier's side, both are trying to assimilate, to explore this relationship, which is more being pronounced to be effective for a short term. Because the customers, they themselves are not moving for the purchase, even though the frequency of the purchase is certain, it is regular, but the purchase of a specific brand or from your offering, it is not certain. So here the relationship will be defined for a shorter period of time. We have taken an example, like if an Indian firm wishes to send a package by courier to England, it is unlikely to attach any special importance as to which courier operator it last used, but instead obtain quotations from a number of equally acceptable operator. Any operator who can offer winning business from always a share customer. We have taken an example, like if an Indian firm wishes to send a package by courier to England, it is unlikely to attach a special importance as to which courier operator it last used, but instead can obtain quotations from a number of equally acceptable operators. Any operator who can offer winning business from always a share customer. We have taken an example like suppose if you are in a if you are operating as a business firm, if you are trying to send out a package through a courier to England or to somewhere else. So you are not recognizing the fact that you have used the same courier, the service of the same courier operator which are used in the earlier discourse. But if the frequency of this disposition, the frequency of the the sending of the parcels are very much being frequent enough, then you as in a firm, you will be able to, or you will be trying to collect a large number of quotations from the different number of service providers who will be giving you out your quotations, and the good possible one towards whom you are finding out a greater feasibility, a greater reliability, you will be placing out your orders to that particular service operator. Thus, Jackson has suggested that the transaction marketing, that is a marketing that emphasizes the individual transaction, it is most appropriate for the always a share buyer. Now, moving on with the slide. Now, this is in a table that summarizes the typical characteristics of the customer at the end point of the account behavior, that is lost for a good and always a share customer. The characteristics of the customer which is being seen from the spectrum of two of the behavioral pattern, that is lost for good customer and the customer who are falling in the category of always a share customer. Now, this is in a long time horizon, the very first column long term horizon, which is being seen in the case of the relationship marketing, and the transaction marketing is in a short term horizon. The long term horizon that is more being prominent enough to realize out the concept of the relationship marketing. We are seeing that it is typified by the lost for good customer, and in the case of the transaction marketing, which is more being pronounced in case of the short term duration, we are seeing that typified by always a share customer, because the share customer they are fickle minded, they are not very much being good enough towards sticking out the purchase pattern to a specific brand. So, they are of short term duration and transaction is happening. In the long term horizon, we are saying that which is fulfilling out the concept of the relationship marketing, we are seeing that the high switching cost is being experienced on the part of the buyers. So, that is why the buyers are not being able enough to switch out their purchase decision. In the terms of the transaction marketing, which is more being pronounced in relation to the short term duration, the long switching cost is there, the switching cost is long. Similarly, the third one, that is substantial investment action is being made, especially in the procedure and the last the long term investment is being made, especially in the procedural plans. If you are treating out your customers who are very much being loyal enough, you at certain point of time you have to make an up investments for enjoying out their credibility to go in for a longer period of time, because they are being acted and they are being talked of as an important asset for you. So, substantial investments in the form of the upfront investment can be done by the firm to just get out their loyalty. Contrary to it, we are seeing that in the short term horizon, the smaller investment action is being needed on the part of the firm to have that kind of frequent transaction on a consistent basis. But that consistency is not very much being prominent enough in case of the transaction marketing. Further, we are elaborating that the high perceived exposure is being seen, and on the contrary to it, in the case of the short term horizon, the lower perceived exposure is being witnessed. The focus on the technology or the vendor is being seen in case of the long term horizon. Technology and the vendor, that is we are in case of the manufacturing process, we are more being focused towards the technical specifications. So, that particular technical specifications and the complex attributes, the complex specifications is very much being more demonstrated enough with the acquisitions of the machines and the tools and the techniques. So, that is very much being relevant enough in case of the long term horizon and or the vendor to be talked of. In case of transaction marketing, the focus is on the producer or on the person. Similarly, lastly, we are seeing that the high importance, that is strategic, operational, personal issues are being shown in the case of the relationship marketing, as the customers and the buyers and the customers or the vendors, they both are on a high contact zone, they both are in a developing out their loyalty towards each other. So, the strategic, operational, and even if the personal and the personal the personal and the professional relationship is being talked of in case of the relationship marketing. However, contrary to it, it is very much being lower in case of the transaction marketing. Now, the intermediate buyers, these are the third category of the buyers, and most of the customers, they belong to this category. A wide range of factors like the characteristics of the product category, the customer's pattern of the product, the uses and the actions of the customers, and the supplier affect the relationship. Such relationships are more applicable for organizational buyers than the customer product or the consumer product, where regular buying is normal. So, we are seeing that in case of the intermediate type of the buyers, most of the consumers or the customers, they belong to this category because of the wide range of the factors that are available, that is, and they are affecting out the falling of the customers into this particular category. A wide number of the customers and the consumers are falling in the category of the intermediate, the intermediate type of the buyers. And we are seeing that the characteristics of the product category, the customer's pattern of the product uses, the actions of the customers and the suppliers, they are affecting the relationship, and such relationships are more being applicable in case of the organizational buyers than the consumer products. We know that the organizational buyers, in case of the institutional buying decision, in case of the B2B marketing, in case of the organizational marketing or industrial marketing or the institutional marketing, wherein the transaction process is more being pronounced. But even if the transaction is more being pronounced, we are experiencing that as the market competitive condition is more being witnessed in the form of the oligopolistic tendency market forms. So, the few number of buyers and sellers are there, and they are well aware of the market situation. They are trying to have that particular association amongst them, because here also we are experiencing that the ordering and the switching cost is more being enough in case of the oligopolistic tendency, and definitely in case of the B2B marketing or organizational marketing. So, in case of B2B marketing, we are seeing that the limited number of buyers and sellers are there. So, the buyers, they are trying to stick out their purchase decision from those limited number of vendors according to specifications, according to technical demand which they are trying to place with them, because they are also knowing about the fact that the ordering and the switching cost in case of the B2B marketing is more being prominent enough as compared to the situation in which the in case of the B2C marketing, wherein the consumers are trying to place out their transactions more frequently as compared to the B2B, and they are more regular and consistent in nature. So, I think that with this we have understood the concept of relationship marketing in a more elaborate form, and we have discussed out that, and we have witnessed that how the different categories and the different forms of the the different categories of the customers can be seen in the purchase decision process of the marketing arena, wherein we are experiencing that there can be three categories falling in the spectrum of the decisional process of the customers arena, that is the services arena, and how they are affecting out their purchase process and how the purchase pattern are affecting out towards building up in a good credible relationship among both the parties. So, this was all about in today's discussion. We will be meeting with another topic in the next discourse. Till then, stay safe and stay blessed. Thank you all for joining.